Racism on college campuses have been a topic of discussion as of recently. These racial issues are not being treated as the prevalent problems of today's society that they are. According to the U.S. Department of Education, there have been 146 reported racial harassments on college campuses in the fiscal year of 2015 alone. Depending on your personal experience and interpretation of this data, it can be surprisingly high or low. However, research shows only 13% of racial harassments are reported, which means there has been an estimated 1,123 racial incidents on college campuses in the past year alone. Regardless of who you are, that is a ridiculously huge number, especially for a society that's supposedly post-racial. This false post-racial identity creates a colorblind ideology that ignores the fact that black men are 200% more likely to get shot by the police when unarmed, that the Jim Crow laws were in effect only 50 years ago, that blacks commit 13% of drug crimes but make up 60% of drug prisoners, that just this year alone, more blacks have been killed by police than have been lynched in any year since 1923, and that blacks are somehow to blame for all of this because some are part of gangs, like there was no such thing as racism until 1969 when the Crips were created. This colorblind ideology is the belief that racism is no longer prevalent in today's society, and it ignores the disadvantage of the non-white population. It's also the main obstacle impeding social progress. On our own campus specifically, it's pretty evident to see what is allowed for this colorblind racism to thrive with very little resistance. The black students of UNR are extremely underrepresented in all aspects, specifically in student population, 3.5%, faculty representation, 2.6%. This lack of representation creates a racially adverse environment for blacks and hinders the growth of cultural awareness for whites. There has been research done on universities that differ in diversity, seeing if there are disparities in racial relations between universities that have high diversity environments and universities that have low diversity environments. And this research done by the Higher Education Research Institute at UCLA shows that instances of racial discrimination and stereotyping occurs at a significantly lower rate at universities with high diversity environments, proving to be more hospitable racial climates, especially when compared to universities with low diversity environments that record instances of racial discrimination and stereotyping at a significantly higher rate. A simple solution to this problem would be to increase the recruitment and diversity in regards to blacks on this campus, as though for the short term it does treat blacks as some kind of exotic commodity for institutions of higher learning. It does simultaneously fit Nancy Lamb's definition of reactive commodification, as it wouldn't be increasing diversity for diversity's sake, but in the long term decommodify blacks and rejecting this ideology as a whole. However, before we take the step forward to decommodifying blacks, we must again look at the preemptive issue that is preventing this progress, and that would be the problem of color blindness that neglects these issues. Now, we might think of color blindness as a problem that is only affecting the blacks of today. However, if we look back on the history of racism and white people in this country, we see that white denial has always been an obstacle in the path of progress. If you look back on the years of 1962 and 1963, we all know it was a time that blacks were discriminated against on a state and nationwide level. But if you look at the responses from white people in the year of 1963, when Gallup polls asked them if they thought blacks were treated equally in their communities, 80% said yes. When they were asked if they thought black children had equal opportunities for education, 85% said yes. This white denial has been a constant throughout America's history, all the way looking back to the 1850s, when Dr. Samuel Cartwright said slavery wasn't a problem and established that every slave that would attempt to run away must have had a mental illness. Throughout hundreds of years of inequality, the one constant has been that white denial and the black experience. And one of the main things that white must learn to move on from this color blindness is to understand that you can't tell people of color you understand their experiences better than they do. Saying black people must be crazy for seeing oppression in today's society is no different from Samuel Cartwright's idea from saying that black slaves must have a mental illness for wanting to run away from their masters. As this denial hasn't been a constant, it has also been an indication that change will soon come, as long as we fight for it.